Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Blog Podcast Special Edition Series, where we preview and predict every college basketball conference tournament. Now up is the Atlantic-10 tournament, which begins today. The tournament will take place at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York. The winner of this tournament gets the automatic bid into the NCAA tournament. If VCU doesn't win the tournament, they'll certainly be an at-large team, so this could be a multi-bid league. If I get a pick wrong, then I'll predict the outcome of the actual matchup on my daily podcast on the night the game is played. If I get my picks correct, then my picks will carry over to my daily podcast. Before I get to my predictions, I'm going to discuss a few of my most likely to be the case items of note. Best player in the tournament, Kellen Grady Davidson. Double-digit seed, most likely to surprise, St. Joseph's. Most likely to spoil a chalk semifinal, Rhode Island. Now, on to my 2019 Atlantic-10 tournament predictions. The tournament begins today. 1 o'clock ESPN+, 13-seeded Massachusetts versus 12-seeded George Washington. Massachusetts, 11-20 in the year, 4-14 in conference play. George Washington, 8-23 in the year, 4-14 in conference play. The pick, Massachusetts. 14-seeded Fordham versus 11-seeded Richmond, 3:30 ESPN+. Fordham, 12-19 on the year, 3-15 in conference play. Richmond, 12-19 on the year, 6-12 in conference play. The pick, Richmond. Second round, tomorrow afternoon, 12 o'clock NBCSN, 9-seeded LaSalle versus 8-seeded Rhode Island. LaSalle 10-20 on the year, 8-10 in conference play. Rhode Island 16-14 on the year, 9-9 in conference play. The pick, Rhode Island. 13-seeded Massachusetts versus 5-seeded George Mason. 2:30 NBCSN, George Mason 17-14 on the year, 11-7 in conference play. The pick, George Mason. 10-seeded St. Joseph's versus 7-seeded Duquesne. 6 o'clock NBCSN, St. Joe's 13-18 on the year, 6-12 in conference play. Duquesne 19-12 in the year, 10-8 in conference play. The pick, Duquesne. 11-seeded Richmond versus 6-seeded St. Louis. 8:30 NBCSN, St. Louis 19-12 on the year, 10-8 in conference play. The pick, St. Louis. Quarterfinals, Friday, 12 o'clock NBCSN. 8-seeded Rhode Island versus 1-seeded VCU. VCU 25-6 on the year, 16-2 in conference play. Rhode Island has a stud in Deron Russell, but he alone won't be enough as VCU wins the Battle of the Rams, so the pick is VCU. 5-seeded George Mason versus 4-seeded St. Bonaventure, 2:30 NBCSN. St. Bonaventure 16-15 on the year, 12-6 in conference play. The Patriots started league play well, but have faltered of late. The opposite has happened to the Bonnies, who I like here to advance, so the pick is St. Bonaventure's. 7-seeded Duquesne versus 2-seeded Davidson, 6 o'clock NBCSN. Davidson 23-8 on the year, 14-4 in conference play. The Dukes are a team that started off the season well but faltered a bit in conference play, and the Wildcats have two of the best players in the conference and the two best players on the court in this matchup, so I like them here to advance. So the pick is Davidson. 6-seeded St. Louis versus 3-seeded Dayton, 8:30 NBCSN. Dayton 21-10 on the year, 13-5 in conference play. The Flyers have been a nice surprise in conference play this season. Meanwhile, the Billikens have been a disappointment. Give me the Flyers in this one, so the pick here is Dayton. Semifinals, Saturday afternoon, 1 o'clock, CBS Sports Network. 4-seeded St. Bonaventure versus 1-seeded VCU. The Bonnies' hot run comes to an end here as the Rams advance to the title game, so the pick is VCU. 3-seeded Dayton versus 2-seeded Davidson, 3:30 CBS Sports Network. The Flyers' run comes to an end here against the Wildcats team that is more talented, so the pick is Davidson. Championship game, Sunday afternoon, 1 o'clock CBS. 2-seeded Davidson versus 1-seeded VCU. This is going to be a great game here. The Rams are in the tournament regardless of this result. So I'm going to go with the duo of John X.L. Gunmanson and Kellen Grady to lead the Wildcats to the dance. So the pick to win the 2019 Atlantic-10 tournament, the Davidson Wildcats. Next up is the Mountain West Conference Tournament.